Okay, section 4.7 is quadratic formula, and we're going to use this to solve quadratic equations as well. It's the last part to solving quadratics. So in order to use this, it has to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, so everything on one side equal to 0. And then you find your a, b, and your c, and you plug them in to this formula. The opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And notice this radical should go all the way across. And the fraction is all the way across. Okay? So I'm first going to get this equation in the right form, which means I need to add the 2 to both sides. So I have negative 6x squared plus x plus 2 is equal to 0. Make sure you're putting whatever you're moving in the right order. This 2 was my constant, so I put it in the C spot on the end. Okay? And then I have my A equals negative 6, B is equal to positive 1, and C is equal to positive 2. Make sure you're using the positives and the negatives, and wait to get your A, B, and C until you have it in this form, everything on one side equal to 0 on the other. And then I can go ahead and start to plug them in. The opposite of B, so that's going to be negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 squared minus 4 times negative 6 times positive 2 all over 2 times negative 6. You should notice what's inside this radical here is the discriminant. Okay, and we used that previously. So that's one of the most important things in this, is to get that part of it correct. But we've already done that. So use those same rules that we did when we were doing that. And that's what you want to simplify first. Before you can simplify anything else, you got to simplify that discriminant part, what's under the radical. So I have negative 1 plus or minus the square root. 1 squared is 1. Negative 4 times negative 6 becomes positive 24, times 2 is positive 48. So I'm adding 48. And then divided by 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. Go ahead and simplify that part now. I have negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 49 all over negative 12. Well, the square root of 49 can actually be simplified in itself. So if it can, you need to go further. The square root of 49 is 7. And then I'm going to move up here. You're going to have 2 parts, and I'm going to simplify it further. Negative 1 plus 7 divided by negative 12. And that's going to become positive 6 divided by negative 12, which is negative 1 over 2, and simplify it. My next part is going to be negative 1 minus 7 divided by negative 12. Well, that's going to be negative 8 divided by negative 12, and that reduces by 4 to negative divided by negative is a positive, and that's going to become positive 2. Okay, for this next one, I still got to get it in the right form before I can plug it into the quadratic formula, and I have to subtract x. And notice that the x is my b term, so make sure you put it in the right spot. I have 2x squared minus x minus 4 is equal to 0. Now I can get my a, b, and c. A is 2, b is negative 1, and c is negative 4. So I have x minus the opposite of b, so that's going to become positive 1, plus or minus the square root of b squared, negative 1 squared, minus 4 times 2 times negative 4, all over 2 times 2. So I have positive 1 plus or minus the square root, and we're going to simplify what's inside the radical first. Negative 1 squared is 1. Negative 4 times 2 is 8 times negative 4 times 2 is negative 8 times negative 4 becomes a positive 32. And when I divide that by 4, let's simplify it more. 1 plus or minus the square root of 33 divided by 4. There's nothing in here I can simplify, so that's my final solution. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to get everything on one side. Make sure you're putting it in the right spot. And that's my constant, so it's going to go on the end. That's my c. So I have 7n squared plus 12n plus 8 is equal to 0. My a is 7, my b is 12, and my c is 8. So when I go to plug it in, x equals negative b, or the opposite of b, so that becomes negative 12, plus or minus the square root of 12 squared minus 4 times 7 is my a, and 8 is my c. All divided by 2 times 7. So x equals, I'm going to simplify the radical first. Negative 12 plus or minus the square root of 144 minus, and that's going to become 224. There's only one negative there, so it's still going to be a minus. 4 times 7 times 8 is 224, all over 14. Negative 12 plus or minus the square root. 144 minus 224 becomes negative 80. Make sure you pay attention, it is a negative because the larger number was a negative. And then from here, what I have to do is I'm looking to simplify this radical. It's not a perfect square, but it can be simplified. And I'm going to use the birthday cake. 2 and 40, 2 and 20, 2 and 10, 2 and 5, 5 and 1. So I have a pair of 2's and another pair of 2's. So what's going to come out of that radical is one of each pair, so that's going to be 4. But also because of this negative here, it's inside the radical. Remember, I'm also going to use I there. So it's negative 12 plus or minus 4i times the square root of 5 all over 14. And there's one more part I'm going to have to do, and I'm going to simplify these parts. I can't simplify what's inside the radical with the denominator, but I can simplify the 3 parts that are on the outside. And if all 3 of those parts can be divided by the same number, I'm going to simplify by that. So they can each be divided by 2, so that's going to become negative 6 plus or minus 2i times the square root of 5, all divided by 7. And that is my solution for this problem. Go ahead and try these two on your own, and we'll take a look at them first thing in class. Alright, here's your joke of the day. There's 2 fish in a tank. One turns to the other and says, "You man the guns, I'll drive." Get it? Tank.